Boker Tov, Chodesh Tov. Today's daf is daf Kuf Yud Aleph, the second to the last daf in Ksubis. Tomorrow make a siyum. And then we learn for a four shlema for Elazar ben Reuma. We started the story yesterday. The last couple lines on Kuf Yud Amid Beis. Rav Zera Mishnah B'nei Rav Yura. Famous question is: your mitzvah to make aliyah or not? Clearly, the Gemara seemed to indicate that you're supposed to go up to Eretz Yisrael if you have the ability to. Rav Zera had a Rebbe, Rav Yehuda, who discouraged him, like some Hasidim hold today. Rav Zera, he was avoiding Rav Yehuda because Rav Zera eventually did come up to Eretz Yisrael, but he wanted to come to Eretz Yisrael. But Rav Yehuda discouraged him. Rav Yehuda, whoever goes from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, over Biasa, he's over in Asay, he's over in a mitzvah, Asay Shenemar, at the top of Kuf Yud Aleph now. Bavel Yavo, the pasuk says you should come to Yuvo, they will be brought to Bavel. V'shamayu, and there they shall be ad yom paktiasum, until that I remember them. Num Hashem. So Rav Yehuda said, once you're in Golus, you're not supposed to come up until God redeems you. Once you're in Bavel. Rav Zera interpreted it differently. Zahu b'kleisharis. The pasuk there was speaking about the kalim in the base of Migdash. Those kleisharis were going to be brought. We're going to be exiled to Bavel, and they wouldn't be brought back until God determined that the base of Migdash will be rebuilt, etc. We're not speaking about people, we're speaking about the Klei Rav Yehuda, another pasuk says, Hishbati Eschem B'not Yerushalayim. This pasuk in Shiur, you'll notice it says three times, that lashon of Hishbati Eschem B'not Yerushalayim, that I caused you, I bound you under oath, B'not Yerushalayim. What did he bind them with? Mitzvos about decided by the gazelles and the deers of the field. What did he bind them with? We'll see. But he said, God bound. Rabbi Yehuda says God bound them to this rule of not coming back to Eretz Yisrael until God decides it, until God shows them that they're supposed to come back. Rav Zera says, Ahu shal Yisrael b'choma. They shouldn't come out in force, meaning they shouldn't fight their way into Israel. That's what he's saying. They can come up to Israel. They can move back to Israel. But that pasuk was saying that you shouldn't come up in force. Don't fight. Rabbi Yehuda, Ishbati Achrinik. Rabbi Yehuda says, okay, maybe that's one shot in Shalai Yisrael B'chom. They shouldn't come up in force and just fight their way in. But there's another pasuk, Ishbati Achrinik. There's another Ishbati. If you look carefully in the psukim, it says in Shiurim that same lashon of Ishbati Eschem B'not Yerushalayim Im Ta'irim Ta'oru. It says three times Ishbati Eschem in Perek Beis pasuk Zayin. All this in Shiurim. Perek Gimel Pasuk Hey and Perek Hey Pasuk Ches, all three places it says Yishbati Eschem Yerushalayim. See, the first one was mentioned in Shiur Beis. The first one was Beis, the second one was in Perek Gimel, the third one's in Perek Hey. So it says there, I got another pasuk telling you that you shouldn't come up. Rav Zera Miboy like Rav Yasser Rav Chanina. Rav says no, that's necessary. Rav Zera says that's necessary for Rav Yasser Prince Rosh Hashanah. Gimel Shvuos Halalu. The three times that I just mentioned, it says Shiur Lama. They shouldn't come up in force. Shouldn't rebel against the nations of the world that are hosting you when you were in Golus. Don't rebel against them. God bound the Goyim with an oath. That they shouldn't oppress the Jews too much while they're in Golus. So that's how Rabbi Yehuda darshan it. Rabbi Yehuda. Not Rabbi Yehuda, but rather Rav Zera. Rav Zera said, what are these? Rabbi Yehuda kept saying, Hishbati Eschem, telling you you're not supposed to go up to Israel. So Rav Zera said, no. The three times that it says it are to indicate you shouldn't fight your way in, you shouldn't rebel against the Goyim. And the third one is that God made the Goyim swear that they will not oppress the Jews more than necessary. Obviously, they are subservient to the Goyim when we are hosted by them, but they shouldn't oppress them. Rabbi Yehuda says no, even though it says these three, and I agree with that, but it says if you awaken or if you stir up, meaning each shvua had double shvuas with it. It's like a double shvua. Each shishbati is double sid. So therefore, the extra shvuas are that you shouldn't go back to Israel at all. Rav Zera says, no, we need all six. It says Ishbati three times, and it says Im Ta'irim Ta'oru, that doubles it, so there's six. Rav Zera, like Rav Levi. Dama, Rav Levi says, Sheish Shvuos Halo. These six, again, the three we mentioned before. Why are there six? Lama. Flasahan and Dama, the three that we said before. Again, that you shouldn't go up in force, you shouldn't rebel against the Goyim, and the Goyim shouldn't oppress you. Enoch, the other three, Shlo Yigalos Hakates, shouldn't reveal the end of times, what's going to happen. Some say Some say, the Nevi'im should not reveal what's going to happen at the end where redemption will be. Because the case, they shouldn't postpone the end by sinning more, according to one Pshat and Rashi. Another Pshat and Rashi, and if they shouldn't cry too much on the fact that the redemption is not taking place yet. Don't push it too much. That's if you have the gears of Shlo Yitchaku as a case. Shlo Yitchaku means don't keep it farther away by sinning more. Shlo Yigalu Asod. And the third one is that you shouldn't reveal the secret. What secret are you speaking about? So again, Rashi has two pshatim. One is the soda Iber intercalation, and one they shouldn't reveal how the months and the years are intercalated, but rather that's one. Another pshat is the soda of the Tamei Mikra shouldn't reveal the secrets of the Torah to the Goyim. La'ovdei kochavim don't reveal it to them. So that's what the 6 oaths are for. The 3 we mentioned before. Then also they shouldn't reveal the end of times and don't push it off, and they shouldn't be megala sod. So what is that lashon of I make you swear, I bind you by the gazelles and the deers of the field. If you fulfill this shvua that I'm causing you to swear, and it's to be loyal to me and not go against these things that I've told you, then it's good. If not, I will abandon your flesh like the wild like the deers in the field, meaning that anybody could take them and kill them. So I'll make you like Hefker, Rashi says. Amar Rav Elazar, if you live in Eretz Yisrael, shoy below, and it's as if you live without sin. Shenemer uba yomer shachain, that the neighbor should not say, Chalisi, I am sick. The nation that lives, I'm sick by this, because the people who live there are considered that they are forgiven for all their sins. So if you live in Eretz Yisrael, even though you've sinned, your sins are forgiven. We learn that speaking about people who are literally sick. People literally sick. Though you're sick, then you are forgiven. You're sick and you live in Eretz Yisrael, then you are forgiven, but not stam. Whoever's buried in Israel, for traditionally Jews have always wanted to be buried here. Whoever's buried in Israel, as if you're buried underneath the Mizbeach, the altar in the base of Mikdash. It says Mizbeach Adama Tasali. In Yisrael it says Mizbeach Adama, an altar made out of earth, meaning it's stone and earth. Tasali, make it for me. We're talking about the Mizbeach Adama, the Mizbeach Hachitzon. The Mizbeach is called Mizbeach Ha'olah, where most of the kabbalas were brought, not the inner Mizbeach that was really a utensil made out of gold, but rather it's Mizbeach Adama Tasali, make it Adama. It says when they were killed, it says V'chiperad Masa'amo, and his earth will atone for him. So again, the Adama that you're buried underneath there, V'chiperad Masa, when you're buried, will be like the Mizbeach Adama. It's like you're underneath the altar. Ula used to visit Eretz Yisrael from Babel. Unfortunately, he passed away while he was still in Babel, but when he wasn't in Israel. Also, they came. Rav Elazar said, he quoted the pasuk in Amos. Amar, he says, "Antula you ula aladama tmeya tamus." You should die on a defiled land. In other words, you weren't, even though he visited Israel often, but unfortunately, you died in a defiled land. He quoted that pasuk about him. Amrlo. Then they told Rav Elazar, Aronaba. Ever see those signs when they bring a dead body from Chutz La'aretz, to be buried here? They have those big pashkavilis that say Aronaba. His aron, his casket has arrived. Okay, fine. Eretz Yisrael absorbed him, but there's no comparison of absorbing him during his lifetime, meaning that his neshama went out here in Israel rather than absorbing him after death, that he came, on a plane and a casket. A man lived in Israel, and his brother died in Bechazai. That's in a town in Babel, let's say. And his brother died there, and he had a case of a Yavama, right? His brother died without children, case of Yibam. Should I go there to be miyabam her, meaning to live with his sister-in-law lived there? Should I go there to live there to be miyabam? Amalei, achiv nasa kusas. Your brother, his brother married a shiksa, meaning she's not a shiksa, but she's called a shiksa because they lived in Chutz La'aretz, right? Umeis and died. Baruch hamakom shahago. Blessed be God who's killed him for living in Chutz La'aretz. You're going to go afterwards. So obviously he must have arranged to do chalitza or something like that. I mean, he had to go there temporarily, or maybe she had to come here, but don't go down there and live with her. Just like you're not supposed to leave Israel to move to Bavel, because Bavel has a higher kedusha than other lands because of all the Torah that's spread there. Even from Padisa to Beikuvi, from Padisa, which is a Makom Torah had yeshivas there, you shouldn't go there. And here Rashi says he knows Lagursham. No, Rashi uses that lashon Lagursham to live there, not just to. We're not talking about a visit. Talking about to live there, you shouldn't go to live there. A man did go from Pompadisa to Beikuvi to live there. Shamsei Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef excommunicated him, put him in chayrim for that. Man went from Pompadisa to, sounds like Estonia, but we're not talking about really the Estonia of today. It's probably someplace near Pompadisa in Babel. Shachavi died. Amar Abayit. Had this guy wanted to live, he could have lived. In other words, he shouldn't have left the Makom Torah to go to a Makom, to move to a place that didn't have Torah. Even the fittest ones in Babel, Eretz Yisrael Koltosan. Eretz Yisrael absorbs them. The fit people of other lands, Babel Koltosan. Babel absorbs them. Again, Babel has a higher degree of kedusha than the other lands. Lamai. So what are we speaking about? Babel, just like Eretz Yisrael absorbs the fit ones in Babel, Babel absorbs the fit ones of other lands. So what are we speaking about? Are we speaking about for lineage? In other words, if you're talking about making a shidduch, that if you're in Babel, you can marry somebody in Israel, and if you're outside of Babel, you can marry somebody in Babel. V'amar Mar, just the way around. Even though Eretz Yisrael has a greater kedusha, but Bavel is considered to be more pure because the best Jews did live in Bavel at that time. All the lands are considered like dough. Dough is a mixture. You can't see what's in it. If you have pure flour, so you see it's pure flour, but dough is a mixture. So all the lands are considered a mixture, meaning the yichus is not clean. They're not. We don't know what their what their lineage is, where their pedigree is not so pure. Israel is considered, as all the other lands are considered like dough compared to Eretz Yisrael, but Eretz Yisrael, Isla Bavel. But Bavel is even a higher degree of lineage because the best Jews were there, the purest Jews were there, and Eretz Yisrael is considered dough compared to Bavel. So if you're talking about lineage, Bavel is on a higher degree than Eretz Yisrael because the people live there. Elin in Kfura, for Kfura. In other words, if they were in Bavel, they wanted to be buried in Israel, they would come to Israel. If they were outside of Bavel, further away, it's fine, they would bring them to Bavel. Just like today, people come to be buried in Israel, and for thousands of years, they wanted to be buried in Israel if they lived nearby. The same way, people who live further away from Bavel, further away from Eretz Yisrael, they could be buried in Bavel. That was also considered something to try for, to try to live to try to be buried at least in Bavel. If you couldn't be buried in Israel, at least be buried in Bavel. If you live in Bavel, it's as if you live in Eretz Yisrael. Hait Sion, woe, Zion, Himoti, escape, Yosheves Bas Bavel, right? Yosheves Bas Bavel, so it compares Bavel to Tzion. Bavel, Lo Chazi, Bavel is also a high measure. You will not see the birth pangs of the Messiah. When the difficulty will come before the Messiah's time, there are going to be difficult times in the world. Bavel won't have to see that. Targuma, but he explained that doesn't mean the Bavel that we know, Babylonia, Iraq today or whatever, but rather Targuma Ahutzel de Binyamin. There's a place in Binyamin, in Eretz Yisrael, called Hutzel, which is also a correlate. That's also called Bavel. In other words, just like you have, places all over the world are called Jerusalem and Jericho and things like that. So in Eretz Yisrael, there was a city called Bavel. So when we say over here that Bavel will be safe from Mashiach, doesn't mean the country of Bavel. It could be the Bavel in Eretz Yisrael. But correlate, they call it Karna Jeshivson. They call it the corner of safety. There will be a safety part in Eretz Yisrael that will not be subject to the Chevla Mashiach. Amar Rav Elazar, Mesim Shebechutz La'aretz Einu Chaim. The people who die in Chutz La'aretz, they will not be resurrected. That's what Rabbi Elazar said. Shemer says, "V'nasati tzvi be'eretz chaim." I will give my glory in the land of the living. Eretz shevyoni ba mesim chaim. The land that I desire, Eretz Yisrael. There, the dead will be resurrected. She'ein shevyoni ba. The area that I don't desire, ein mesim chaim. They will not be resurrected there. Better to be in Israel, guys. Masiv Rav Abba Bar Mamo, Pasuk Rav Mamo says, what do you mean? It says Yichyu Meisecha, your dead ones will be resurrected. Nivlasi Yukuman, and my dead bodies will also rise up. My love, doesn't that mean Yichyu Meisecha, Mesim Shirat Yisrael? The first part of the pasuk is speak about the dead ones in Israel. Nivlasi Yukuman, my dead bodies will rise up. That's Mesim Shebechutz Laaretz. So refers. So Rav Abba Bar Mamo said, no, even the ones in Chutz Laaretz will also be resurrected. What do I mean by that? I will give my glory only in the land of the living. On Nebuchadnezzar, I talk about Nebuchadnezzar, the Amar Rahmana, my sin Alayu, I'm going to bring on the Jews, Malka, a king, the Kol Kitubi, that's going to be as swift as a deer. That's what it means to be literally a deer. It can mean glory and something nice, and I desire could also mean literally a deer. That's what it's speaking about. That's what Rav Abba Mammal said. So he disagreed with Blazer. Blazer said, the Mesim and Chutz Laaretz will not be resurrected. Rav Ramal says, no, I got a pasuk say that they will. Omerlei, Rebbe Mikra Achara Nidorish. So he said to him, no, I darshan a different pasuk. It says, no sin shamal amaleha rachamba. I give a neshama, meaning I give a new soul to the people who live there. La amalev, ruach lahocham, the ones who walk there. So that's what Rabbi Lazar answered Rav Abba Bar Mamo. The ones in Chutz Laaretz will not live, because I got a post no sin shalom. Only the nation that's on the land, they will be resurrected, not the other ones. What does he do with that pasuk? It says that my dead bodies will rise up. Mashma, that it's not the same as Yichyu Meisecha. That's speaking about even the miscarriages, the babies that didn't make it, they will also rise up, but only those in Eretz Yisrael. Rav Abba Bar Mamo, what is Rav Mamo who says even the Mesim Chutz Laaretz will also be resurrected? Of course, it hasn't happened yet, so we don't know who's right. Rav Abba Bar Mamo, Hi Nosin Shamalam Aleh, my Avalei. What does he do with Nosin Shamalam Aleh? Mashma, only the ones in Israel will be resurrected. Even a woman who's not a full Jew, she's a Shifra Kana, she's a maidservant who's only a partial Jew. Also, she will also be granted a share in the next world. That's what he means. To the nation on it. Which I'm speaking of. Of course, what did I'm say? You wait here with the chamor. Chamor is a nation which is like donkeys, and I was referring to the goyim. So that's what he means over here. That even a goy in Eretz Yisrael, even a Shifra Kananis, a partial Jew, will also be resurrected. That's what he uses that drasha for. Because he says that the Jews in Chutz Laaretz will also be resurrected, and Amaleh uses for this drasha. What does he do with that lashon of a spirit to the ones who walk in Israel? For this drasha, not to say that only the Jews in Israel will be resurrected, because Rav Mamo says even the Jews in Chutz Laaretz will also be resurrected. Lamaleh means shulachem po imachamor, amadam el-chamor. Even the Knanim, Shifra Knanas will also be resurrected, or an Eved Knani, the same thing. And what is Ruach HaChabah meaning? Whoever walks 4 amos in Eretz Yisrael, famous line, Kol HaMalach Agmar says, if you walk 4 amos in Eretz Yisrael, Muftach Lo Shibur will also is assured of having a share in the next world. Ula Rabbi Lazar, Tzaddik Shem Chol Tzai Nechaim. Understand Rabbi Lazar, who said he disagrees with Rav Mamre. Rav Lazar started off by saying that the dead ones in Chutz Laaretz will not be resurrected. Even tzaddikim Chutz Laaretz Einam Chaim, they're not going to be resurrected under law. They will be resurrected. Even he holds that the Jews will be resurrected, but they will have to be rolled in. Their bodies will roll up to Eretz Yisrael, and then they will sprout forth there. Maskul Rabba. So Maskul Rav Abba Sala, that was his name. Rabba Sala Rabba. It was Sala Rabba. That was his name. Gilgul at Tzaddikim Saru. Why should they have to suffer? You say that they will, even the Tzaddikim Chutz Laaretz will also be resurrected, but they'll have to roll into Eretz Yisrael. Won't that be painful for their bodies to roll all the way to Yisrael? And Rabbiya, Mechilas Naslo Mekaka, they will have cavities in the ground. They will rise up in Chutz Laaretz. They will be resurrected in Chutz Laaretz, and they'll walk through the cavities, come to Eretz Yisrael, and in Eretz Yisrael they will sprout up from the earth. Yeah, couldn't take a plane. Yeah, maybe today they will. And carry me up from Mitzrayim, right? But Yaakov said, "You'll carry me up from Mitzrayim, ukfar time before some, and bury me in the sepulchres and the graveyards of my ancestors." Amar Karna, Karn explained, there's hidden things over here. When Yaakov said that, why did he command his kids to bring him back to Eretz Yisrael? Yaakov Avinu knew that he was a he was a complete righteous person. And if, according to everybody, now we're saying, even Rav Lezer said, the Mason Shabbat Lawrence will also be resurrected at Tzadikim. Why did he bother his sons to carry him back up? He could be resurrected in Egypt, and he'll come back to Israel that way. Maybe he's afraid that he maybe, even though he's a tzaddik, maybe he won't be zocha to these cavities, and his body will have to suffer rolling all the way underground from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael. A similar thing. By Ashba Yosef, so Yosef, his son, also died in Mitzrayim, and he found his brothers with a shmua saying that they should carry him up. Amar Chanina, Varm Shabagav. Again, here Rav Chanina said it, not Karna. Hidden things were Yodei Yosef Atzmo. Yosef himself knew about himself. Shitzadik Omer, that he was a complete tzaddik. If they're going to live, why did he bother his brothers to schlep him back up? Arbameos Parsha, they have to schlep him all the way from Egypt back to Israel. Because he was afraid maybe he won't be zocha to these cavities, these underground cavities, and he'll have to suffer. His body will have to suffer being brought back to Israel to be resurrected. Rabba's brothers lived in Eretz Yisrael, and his brothers were trying to encourage him to make Aliyah, even before they had Nefesh B'Nefesh. They told Rabbah, they said, this is what they said. Yaakov knew that he was a tzaddik, and yet he said that he wanted to be brought back to Israel so that he shouldn't have to suffer. So what are you living in Chutz La'aretz for? Even if you're a good guy, Rabbah, even Yaakov said, he didn't want to stay in Egypt. He was afraid of the suffering. So why don't you come move in with us? And also a story, Ilfa Mosef, Ilfa said that they added another story that to encourage him to make Aliyah. There was a man who wanted to marry a woman who lived in Chutz La'aretz. He was in love with her. He wanted to leave Eretz Yisrael to marry her. Kivin Shama Kazos, once he heard this business about if you die in Chutz La'aretz, either you won't be resurrected, and even if you do, it'll be suffering. Gilgul Ba'atzmo, he resigned himself, he held himself up, and he pained himself, and he didn't go to marry her, and he stayed single his whole life. They said to Rabbi, even though you're a great Talmud Chacham, and there you're learning above by yourself. Well, if you learn from a master, from a great rabbi, you should come up to Israel. In other words, come up to Israel for a number of reasons. Number one, you don't want to die in Chutz La'aretz. Number two, it's not, that it's suffering in Chutz La'aretz, and you could learn here. So I'm talking about Ein Lecha Rav. You don't have a Rav here, maybe to learn in Eretz Yisrael. You're better off learning Eretz Yisrael. Maybe you don't have a Rav. Yesh Lecha Rav. There was a great rabbi here, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was the Marad Asher in Eretz Yisrael. But if you don't come up, if you're not going to listen to us, at least be careful with these three things. Be careful with these three things. Don't sit too much. If you sit too much, that's bad for your gastrointestinal system. Don't stand too much. That's difficult for the heart. Don't walk too much. That's bad for your eyes. Spend a third of your life sitting, a third standing, and a third walking. If sitting if you don't have like a backrest or something to lean on, it's better to stand. Why do you say it's better to stand? That's bad for the heart. Ella, yeshiva she'ein basmicha. If you're sitting and that doesn't have any support to it, in other words, even though it's not good to do anything, too much of anything is not good, but rather than sit without support, it's better to stand with support. And they also said the following thing. Yitzchak, Shimon, and Oshia, these three great rabbis, they said one thing. Halacha Rabbi Yehuda b'prados. Halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to prados. What do you mean? What's a pared? Is a mule. A mule is a combination of a horse and a mule. A horse and a donkey, rather. Horse and a donkey. Sometimes it could be the male donkey with the female horse, or the other way around. Now the shaila is, let's say you have a mule who's in heat, right? If you have a mule in heat, what do you mate it with? You might say you mate it with a horse or with a donkey because it's really one of its parents. But that's a shaila. In other words, if you know that so Rashi explains that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that you can't mate it with either one of them. Why? Because rechoshin lezera'av. By an animal, you're concerned with the father. Like, for example, if you know that the mule's mother was a horse, so you just look at this, the machlokas, right? One says, if you know that the mule's mother is a horse, you can mate the mule with a horse, right? Because it's considered a horse. And if you know the mule's mother was a donkey, you can mate it with a donkey. Rav Yehuda says, no. Since the mule has both horse and donkey blood in it, you can't mate it with either one because that would be kalayim, that would be a mixture, the forbidden mixture. Therefore, he said that Rabbi Yehuda said that you could only mate it with another mule. The time of Yeromer Prada Shetava, if a mule that was in heat, you don't mate it with a horse or with a donkey. Elamina, its own species, a mule. Which, of course, to get a mule, something's got to be over anyway. But but once it's done, it's done. As you got a mule already, you can only mate it with another mule. I think they can't have children anyway. What? Right, they're sterile, but they still could be in heat. They still want to have bia.
But they won't have.
They won't have children. No, they won't have children. No. They won't have children. So what? No, we're talking about if you have a mule that's in heat. A mule is anxious to mate with another animal. He can't have children, but he wants to mate. You can only mate it with another mule, not with a donkey or with a horse. Even if you know that the mother was a donkey or horse, you can't mate it. So who are these three? He said Yitzchak, Shimon, and Oshia. They all said the halachas like Rav Yehuda that you cannot mate a mule with a donkey or with a horse. It's got to be only with another mule. Who are these three rabbis? Rav Nachman Yitzchak. When he says Yitzchak, it's Rav Yitzchak Nafla. That's the famous Rav Yitzchak the Smith. Shimon is Rav Shimon ben Pazi. Some say it's Rish Lakish, whose name is also Shimon. Oshia, who's Oshia, is Rav Oshia Baribi. That was Rav Oshia. That's the Oshia he's referring to. Amar Belazar. Amay Ratzos Ein Chaim. Also, not only we talked about only the Jews in Israel, or even the Jews in Chutz La'aretz will also be resurrected, according to the machlokas about that. But everybody says if they're tzaddikim, they will be resurrected, but they'll have to suffer the trip to Israel if they didn't put them on a plane, right? But he says also Amaratzim who don't learn Torah will also not be resurrected. Shneimar Mesim Bal Yichu, they die, they won't live. Who's that referring to? Referring to Amaratzim. Tainam Yachi Mesim Bal Yichu Yachal Lakoim. I think. Everybody, Talmud Reform, only the ones who were lax, the ones who were lax. The Marpa Atzma Dibri Torah, the one who's lax, soft, meaning doesn't learn Torah, Kosim Medaber. Doesn't mean nobody will be resurrected. Means the ones who are lax in Torah, they will not be resurrected. Not nice to say that. Not nice to say just because they don't learn Torah that they won't be resurrected. He didn't like their master, meaning God, doesn't like it to say that way. The pasuk it says that the Mesim Yichu are reformed by Yakumu, that the ones who are lax, not lax that they just didn't learn Torah, but they're so lax that they worship Avodah Zarah. They do Avodah Zarah. But I got another pasuk that tells me that if they don't learn Torah, they also will not be resurrected. The Siv Kital Oros Telechi, your dew is the dew of light. The Eretz reform Tavio, but the ones who are lax, they will be pushed down to the ground. Okay? If you learn Torah, right, like that's the Tal Ora Sarecha, the dew of light is your dew, right? If you learn Torah or Torah or Torah Mechaya will resurrect him, will make him live. If you don't learn Torah, Torah Mechaya will not make him live. So if you don't learn Torah, you also not be resurrected. Keeping the chazik to come and star. But once he saw that Rabbi Yochanan was upset by that, because Rabbi Yochanan said, don't say just because they're not learned that they will not be resurrected. I did find a way for them to be resurrected. You're right. Even though they are not learned, I found a remedy for them in our Torah that says, if you cleave to God, you will all live. You will be resurrected too, as long as you cleave to God. Can you cleave to the Holy Spirit? Hashem is a fire. You can't cleave to fire, you'll get burned. What means this? If you marry off your daughter to a Talmud Chacham, meaning that you support a Talmud Chacham, or you do business for a Talmud Chacham, so he should be able to learn, you run some business for him, you support him in some way, or you give pleasure to Min Chacham from your assets, it's as if you cleave to God, and therefore you will be resurrected. A similar thing, we have the same drasha by a different pasuk. Pasuk is lahavos Hashem lokecha uledafkavo. Right? It says, we say it's in Shema. It's not in Shema, but it's in Lav Hashem Makechel Dafkaba, I think it's in Yitzhak. That you're supposed to love God and cleave to Him. Can you cleave to the Shekhinah? Right? How could you cleave to the Shekhinah? Ella, you're going to burn. Ella kolamesi bitul tam chacham. You marry if your daughter to a tam chacham, meaning you support him. Also, pragmatam. I mean, you do business for a tam chacham. And you give him pleasure from your essence. It's as if you cleave to the Holy Spirit. Bar Yosef. When they are resurrected, they will break out. They will sprout out from the earth in Yerushalayim. Shnemar vayatzitzu meir kaisav. They will sprout up. They will break forth from the city like grass. Kaisav haaretz. Ve'ein ir Yerushalayim. Which city will that be? They'll all come to Yerushalayim. Shnemar v'ganosi ela ir hazos. And I will protect this city. Let's hope they all don't rise up in Ramot and look for lodging here. But they'll rise up somewhere, probably closer to the city, right? When the tzaddikim will rise up from the dead, they will rise up in their clothing. Kavachomer from a kernel of wheat. When you bury a chita, when you plant a wheat seed, it's just a seed. It's naked. But when it grows forth, when the wheat grows from the seed, it comes up with several layers of clothing, right? It's all covered up. You don't see the seed itself. Tzaddikim were buried in shrouds. Certainly, they will come up clothed. Eventually, Eretz Yisrael is going to be so, as we see, beginning already now, right? 100 years ago, nothing grew here. Eventually, Eretz Yisrael will grow cakes and silk clothing will come out of the earth. Computer chips, right? Because the pasuk says he pisas bar ba'oras. What does that mean? There will be a rich grain field in the land. And Rashi explains that pisas over here has two lashonos, right? What does that mean? Rashi says that pisas is a lashon of dorish pisas bar, lashon pisas hayad, right? Pisas bar meaning lashon pisas hayad, like a hand that's big and wide. You don't find a wheat seed as wide as your hand, but it means like a cake. Like cakes will just go right out. It'll like bread and loaves of bread and cakes will grow right out of the ground. Pasuk, it's already baked, already ready to eat. But pasim, right? He passes bar. It's like a clothing. Pasim. So clothing and cakes and loaves, etc. Ready to eat food will go right out of the ground. Tanarbani, this is Baba Arts, Barosh Harib, the top of mountains. Amru Asida Chita. Eventually, you plant wheat. It'll grow Shatitamar Kedeka. It'll grow as high as a tree, as high as a palm tree. But Ola Barosam, it'll go high up on the mountains. It'll be as high as the mountains. Hashem Tomer, maybe you'll say Yesh Sal Kotso. It'll be very difficult to harvest it. Tamalomer Yirish Kalvan Imperio. Its fruits will rustle like Lebanon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, maybe Ruach Hashem will bring a wind from his storehouse, and it'll blow on this great wheat tree, umashra esilta, and it will loosen its flour. Ba'adam yotze l'sar, person will go out to the field who maybe malay pisas yado, and he'll bring a handful of wheat, right? Just go right out there and just bring it right out. I mean, and from there, Panasasa he'll have enough sustenance for himself, for Panasas Hanchibasim, for his whole family, just from there. And it'll just grow out of the ground like a tree, and it'll bring a wind, it'll shake it. You won't even have to harvest it. Just put your hand down, and you'll have enough wheat there for the whole family. Im chaylev kloyos chita, the pasuk says, with kidney fat of wheat, chaylev kloyos, with the kidney fat of wheat. What does it mean? Amar asida chita, you'll eventually have wheat, shetesh kshesh shoyos. A one wheat kernel will be the size of two kidneys of a shore of an ox. Two big kidneys. Shashar godol, from a large ox. Balti Tama, you might say, how could that be? Sharei Shua, we found here, we were a fox. Kinan Belev is a fox nested in a turnip. Vishaklu, and after he nested it and presumably ate from it, Shaklu, then they weighed the turnip. Umatzabo Shishim, and they found 60 liters per liter shel sipor by the siporan liter measure. In other words, sometimes you do have tremendously large fruits and vegetables. Tanya Rav Yosef, Maisa B'Sichen, there was a story in Sichen, that place. A father left him over 3 stems of mustard from a mustard bush or mustard tree. And one of them split open. They found 9 measures of mustard. The eights of, and with the wood alone from these twigs, they used there was enough wood there to cover over to make schach for a potter's hut. In other words, just from a small tree, that eventually things will be so abundant and they will be so big and large and sustainable. Amr of Shimon ben Tachlifa, our father left us over a cabbage stalk, but it was so big, we needed a ladder to go up and down. It was so big, this cabbage stalk. Pasuk says, "V'dam einav tishta," and he will drink the blood of the grape. Chomer will drink from the blood of the grape. He will drink foaming wine. What does it mean? Amru local mazel olam will not be like this world. Olam mazeh yesh botzar liv. So there's a lot of pain. You have to harvest the grapes, and tread upon them. Olam abon. The next world, maybe another achas. You will bring like one grape or one cluster of grapes for carving in a wagon or a spina or in a ship. Umanicha, what is it? What's the word? My mind is scratched out here. Bezavis beso, but in the corner of his house. Umisafik emena, and they will be able to supply from there. Kapito sagara, like a large cask of wine. Eats up, and it's wood. The wood from that stalk of grapes. There'll be enough use for cooking, for fuel under the used for fuel on the oven. No grape that has less than 30 gavriam, than 30 liters of wine. And from the blood of the grape, meaning the redness of the grape, you will drink foaming wine. Chomer is foaming wine. Chomer is 30 saw, is a measure of 30 saw. So from each grape, you'll have so much wine. It's miraculous how big these will be and how abundant they'll be. Kiyosar Rav Dimi came from Eretz Amar, it says, Osri Lagefen Iro. He will tie to a vine his young animal, his foal. What does it mean? There will be no vine in Israel. Each vine will need a whole city of people to harvest it. That's what it means. Also, like an ero. Ero means it's full, but the drasha is you'll need a whole city to harvest each vine. And for a wild tree, Bnei Asona, who will tie his young animal, his young donkey. There will be no wild tree in Israel. So it will not give off a load that 2 donkeys need to carry. Now, even a tree that doesn't give a lot of fruits will give off a tremendous load. Maybe he'll say there was no wine there. He washes his clothes in wine. Maybe he'll say it's not red wine. Dam is blood, like the blood of the grape, meaning it'll be red. The grapes will give off red wine. You say it won't intoxicate, it's not strong wine. Suso is like inciting. It'll incite you, it'll excite you, it'll be intoxicating. Maybe you'll say it won't have much taste. The wine will be very tasty. What does that mean? My eyes will turn red. Means they'll turn red from the wine. Every palate that tastes it, Omer Li will say, more, I want more, give it to me, meaning it will be very tasteful. Maybe that's only good for young people, but it's not good for older people. And the whiteness of teeth from milk. I'll take a leben shinaim. Don't say for the leben shinaim, the white of the teeth. Ella leben shanim. It'll be good for a person of many years, even for old people. Mike said one more line. What's the simple shot of the pasuk when it says leben shinaim michalav? Kiyasar Rav, a famous nice Russia. Hashem said before God, Ribbon Shalom, Ramez Beinayim, please give us a wink with your eyes. Beinecha, Ramez Beinecha, the basim which is sweet for us. The basim micham is sweeter than wine. And show us your teeth. Smile to us. The basim micham, which is sweeter than milk. Better is a person who smiles. Show your teeth to your friend by smiling. Yosef Meshkel is better than even giving wine. Shnemer uleben shinayim echalav. I'll take a ben shinayim. Don't say ben shinayim. The whiteness of teeth. Ella libun shinayim, the whiteness of the teeth, not the ben shinayim, not person with teeth, but the libun shinayim. If you show somebody the white of your teeth, meaning you smile to them, that's better than giving them a drink of milk. Okay, we'll pick it up from Rav Chia. We're 8 lines from the bottom page. We'll pick it up here tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem, and make the Siyam Ezrat Hashem. Have a good day, everybody. Chodesh Tov. Don't no Talis and fill in for another minute and a half.